Hi everyone, it's Sunny and welcome to the Wired Society. So today I am doing the mid-year book freakout tag 2021 edition. So I'll put the credit where it's due somewhere on the screen for whoever invented the tag. And let's get started. If you ever see me looking down, it's because I am looking at the questions on my phone. First question is best book you've read so far this year, and I would have to say Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. It was exquisite. If you want a more detailed review, you can see my wrap-up video that I posted last month. I will link it somewhere on the screen. It was just exquisite. I would also have to say The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, and once again I gave a short review of the book in a video, in a wrap-up, so you can check that out if you want more details about why I love these books so much. Second question is best sequel you've read so far this year. So I don't have a lot of options because I haven't read any series this year besides one. I've read the Folk of the Air series. So the first book is The Cruel Prince and the second book is The Wicked King. So this is the only sequel that I've read this year and also the best. And I would have to say that even if I had read other books, other series, I would probably still pick this book because basically usually when I start a series, I love the first book and then it all goes downhill from the second one. However, with The Cruel Prince and The Wicked King, the second book in my opinion was just as good as the first one, so would have to say it's the best sequel I've read this year, even though it's the only one. Third question is new release you haven't read yet but really want to. I have two of those. I have a ton of them, but I have written down two of them specifically. I really wanted to read One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. Ever since I've heard of the plot and saw the release date, I was like, I need to get myself this book, and I still haven't, sadly, but I really want to read it, especially because I haven't read a lot of romance and cute books. So yeah, I really want to get this one, and it sounds really intriguing and very cute and nice, and yeah, it sounds like a really nice romance. Also, it's gay, so I'm really excited to read that one. And the second one is Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. Because she is a singer, her stage name is The Japanese Breakfast, and I absolutely love her music. And Crying in H Mart started off as a piece in The New Yorker, and I absolutely love it. So I'm so excited to read the full-length book. And yeah, I'm excited to support an artist that I love musically, and now that she's moved on to some literary work, I want to read that too. Question number 4 is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. So books that haven't been released yet but will be released during the second half of 2021. And I have so many of those, but I have two that I really specifically am excited for. One is A Lesson in Vengeance by Victoria Lee. Ever since I've read the premise, the plot, the synopsis of this book, I've been wanting to read it so bad, and I'm just so excited for it to come out. I think it's coming out in August, so it's pretty soon, so it should not be too long of a wait. And oh, I'm just so excited to read this one. I just really hope it lives up to my expectations. And the other one is Beautiful Words, Where Are You by Sally Rooney, which is coming out in September. And I am excited to read it because I am a Sally Rooney stan. I love what she writes. when I first started reading her, I had a bit of a hard time getting into her very specific writing style, but as soon as I got a hold of it, it just went a lot smoother. And the more I looked between the lines in her books, the more I found them interesting, and I realized that there's so much more to the story than it seems at first glance, and she's so good at doing that. So I'm so excited to read her new book and find new things to gush about. Number 5 is biggest disappointment, and I hate to answer this question because it feels a little bit I don't want to disrespect any author's craft, any author's intelligence, especially because I'm not an author, so I'm not a literary critic, I'm just like a reader, and it just feels a little bit bad to shit on somebody else's work even if you didn't like it personally. However, I would have to say that I have been let down, that there is a book that didn't meet my expectations. I'm not saying that this book is bad, that it's like a terrible book that no one should read. It was just disappointing for me because I was expecting something totally different, and it was They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. I don't know, there was just something missing. I couldn't explain why. I didn't really see the hype that other people saw in it, but you know, you live and you learn, and maybe in the future I'll read something else of Adam Silvera and it'll become like one of my favorite books ever, but this one just didn't do it for me and I had very high expectations for it. Number 6 is Biggest Surprise, and I would have to say my biggest surprise for this year was My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Ottessa Moshfegh. It was a surprise, like I was pleasantly surprised in a lot of ways. First of all, this book had gotten so many mixed reviews. Like, people either hated it or absolutely loved it. Like, there was no in between. People were like, this is the most boring book ever, I absolutely hated this book, and other people were like, oh, this book changed my life and it was one of the best books I've ever read. And like, going into it, I was like, I don't want to sound like a hater, but I feel like I want to love this book, but I feel like I might be one of those who dislike it, and I didn't. I absolutely love this book, love this book, and I was so pleasantly surprised. So I was surprised in that sense that I had a very, I don't know what my expectations were, but I just didn't expect to like it so much. I wanted to, but I didn't expect to. Then another sense of the word surprise is that I was expecting something totally different in terms of narrative voice, because I had never read Ottessa Moshfegh before. This was my first time reading one of her work, and from the description of the book and from the reviews, I was expecting a totally different writing style and narrative, and I don't know, and even the plot, like the author took the plot somewhere I didn't expect it to be taken. I cannot say much more without spoiling it, but I was pleasantly surprised anyway. Question number 7 is favorite new author. So it can be a new author that just debuted a new book for the first time, or it can be a new author to you, so an author you've never read before. So my favorite new authors are not debuting this year. They already have published works, but they are new to me because I had never read them before 2021, and they are Ottessa Moshfegh. I mean, I've only read My Year of Rest and Relaxation, but I loved it so much that I think it's fair to say she's my favorite new author. And the other one is James Baldwin, because prior to 2021, I had never read James Baldwin's work. I had read some quotes, some extracts, I had seen some speeches in video form, but I had never read his writing, like a full body of work. And this year, so far, I have read 2, and I absolutely loved it, and I think it's safe to say that he has become one of my favorite authors. Question number 8 is newest fictional crush, and I would have to say, I guess, Jude and Cardan from The Cruel Prince, because they are, I don't know, they are, wow. You know, Jude, she's like a badass woman who fights with swords and stands up for herself and is fierce and is flawed, unlike some fictional characters that almost seem too perfect. Like, they're all like kind of redeemable. Cardan, I mean, you know, men, the way that they are written by women, usually they're like top-notch, and that's why I have high expectations and cannot find anybody in real life that lives up to those expectations, because in real life you don't find men written by women. Newest favorite character, I would have to say once again Jude from The Cruel Prince. The only reason I keep mentioning this book when it comes to fictional characters is because the other fiction books that I've read that had like actual characters in it, they were all like very complex books with morally gray characters that you cannot really love or like have a crush on, like, you know, the picture of Dorian Gray, everybody problematic. My Year of Rest and Relaxation, everybody problematic. I'm currently reading Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid, and everybody except the main character and her friends are super problematic, and like that's it. It's like they're all books that like really dive into like human flaws and the human psyche and show how fucked up humans are. So it's really hard to get attached to these characters in a way that's like, ooh, they're my favorite character, or I have a crush on this fictional character. Like, this just cannot happen with other books, which is why I keep on bringing up characters from The Cruel Prince. So yeah, Jude and Cardan still, but especially Jude. Book that made you cry, I would have to say Disability Visibility by Alice Wong. It is an anthology of several disabled people telling their story basically, and some of them were very hard to hear. Some of them I switched between the ebook and the audiobook, and while listening to the audiobook I don't often cry while reading, like that's a very rare occurrence, but I felt my throat closing up and my eyes welling up while listening to some of those stories. And sorry for all the noise, somebody's getting married. In this economy, guys, people getting married in this economy. Why would you want that? Oh my god, what a dumb bitch. So yeah, this book made me really emotional in a lot of ways. Of course, there were very good times also. There were stories of joy and self-love and success, and it wasn't like all depressing, but just in some parts it was really tough reading about some people's experience with ableism and like the way they were treated by able-bodied people and by the system. And god, like some of it was awful, and it made me tear up a little bit, cannot lie. Next question is happiest book you've read, and I don't read a lot of happy books. I mean, I knew it. Now that I have to answer this question, like happiest book you've read, and I'm like, did I read any happy book? So I guess it should be my resolution for the second half of the year is to read more happy books, like more fluffy, lighthearted, or even if it's not fluffy or lighthearted, like just stories that aren't too sad, because I read way too much sad things. Most beautiful book you've bought this year. So I have a book buying problem. I have a book buying addiction. 100% would not recommend. I would say that I haven't made the calculations and I'm terrible at math, but I would estimate that about 80% of the books on my shelves are unread because I buy books way faster than I read them. I'm sure I have bought a lot of beautiful books this year. Let me check. So I would say I didn't really buy any books that have like covers, you know, that are so wow, black and gold with, you know, sparkles. Like, it's not super fancy. It's just books that I think have covers that are really aesthetically pleasing or very like nice to look at graphic design. So there is The Farm by Joanna Ramos, which I don't know, I love the shade of yellow. I love that the front cover has the front of the head and the back cover has the back of the head. Minimalistic, but also shows enough to like be intriguing. Then there is We'll Always Have Paris, just because, you know, whether it's the font, the color, black and white, it's all very like, ooh, Parisian aesthetic. And I don't know, maybe it's me just being a cliche French person, but I just love the aesthetic. I feel like Emily in Paris should have tapped a little bit more into this aesthetic and a little bit less in whatever is going on at the moment. Then there is The Unbearable Lightness of Being. I haven't read it yet, and the cover is so minimalistic but I also think it says a lot. I don't know, the way that it kind of looks like it was drawn and written by children, but that makes it intriguing and that draws your eye to the cover. Like, it's so simple but also says a lot. Then there is High Fidelity, and it's not beautiful in the sense that, ooh, like, wow, what a mesmerizing book cover, but I just love what they did. Like, basically it's a book about music. Like, it's a book about love and music, and they wrote the title with an O card. I don't know how to pronounce that word, but you know, that thing you plug in to play music. And since it's a book that revolves a lot around music, I think that this is very smart, and yeah, that's a good design. And there is Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro, which is, I don't know, look at this cover. It's just beautiful, isn't it? And the covers for his other book, you've probably seen it everywhere, like Clara in the Sun and The Remains of the Day. They are just as beautiful. So yeah, I would say these are some of the prettiest books I've bought this year. Next question is, what book do you need to read by the end of the year? So there's a lot that I want to get around to before the end of the year, but I really want to read the last book in the Cruel Prince, The Folk of the Air series. So I think it's Queen of Nothing, because I've loved the first two, and I'm really excited to find out what happens in the last one. I also really want to read On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. I've only started it a little bit, and it's so beautifully written so far, so I really need to finish it soon. I also really need to read basically everything that's been hanging around on my shelves for so many years, and I need to read, it's not a specific book, but in general, a little bit more happy and fluffy and lighter books. Like, it doesn't need to become my main type of reading, but I need to read more of those, because now filming this video, I realize that I really don't read enough happy books. And books, you know, they're good for education, they're good to appreciate the art and the craft of literature and writing, but it's also a form of escapism and of daydreaming. And how do I do this if I only read super sad books? So yeah, these are not very specific, like I'm not giving you book titles, but it's more like the types of books that I really need to read before the end of the year. And also Six of Crows, because man, it's been on my shelves for like 5 years at this point, and the show has come out and like everybody's talking about it, and I still haven't read it, and I think it's a shame. So Six of Crows as well. And last question is favorite book community members. So I'm guessing that means like booktubers, bookstagrammers, all of that. So I would have to say literally every single booktuber that I have mentioned in my Black Booktubers to Follow video. So I'll link it somewhere on the screen and also in the description down below. And all of those booktubers are amazing booktubers, amazing content creators, and I would 100% recommend them. I also like Sappho's Library, so she really focuses on sapphic, lesbian, bisexual, women-loving women, reads book recommendations. There's all types of content on there, and I don't know, I just love her recommendations. I just really love her channel. There is a Sunny Book Nook. I love her. I just love her, and her book recommendations are very out of the box. Like, they're not the super popular book recs that you see everywhere on BookTube, so you get some, you know, a new, like some flavor. And also Uncarly and Jack Edwards, they have blown up so much since I followed them. Like, I followed them, they had a couple thousand subscribers, and all of a sudden they got so big, and I'm so happy for them because I love them. I'm grouping them together because they're both like booktubers with like super fun humor, super original and fun video formats. Instead of just doing like book reviews, they do really, I don't know, they are super original, unique. I love their content, I love their humor, I love their taste in books. I 100% trust their taste. Like, if they recommend a book, I will run to the library and get it. So yeah, and I might be forgetting someone, but these are the people coming out from the top of my head. So yeah, that was my mid-year book freakout tag. Thank you so much for watching it. I hope you've loved it. See you soon. Bye.